You want some numbers? I've got some numbers for you. In 2 games this season against the Knicks, the Kings allowed New York to score 276 points, 143 to 120 at the Garden earlier this season, and tonight 133 to 104. And the Knicks were without their all-star point guard in Jalen Brunson.
So was that your Bowling Green math, or was that your calculator?
That was my Bowling Green math. Why am I off?
No, I think it's great. I did some San Diego. I think it's awesome. I did some old-fashioned San Diego State math as well. I've got some numbers. -98 tonight for your starters.
Yep. And I have a question. What the hell is Zach LaVine and Keegan Murray, but particularly LaVine, doing on the floor in a blowout halfway through the fourth quarter? Would you explain that to me, please?
Not a clue. I mean, even once you surpass the 30-minute mark, like maybe 30 minutes for your 30th birthday, like 36 minutes is insane coming off of the stretch that they've had and the upcoming stretch and his injury concerns, Grant. You already have Malik Monk that went to the locker room.
I will tell you that no starter should have been on the floor at any point during the fourth quarter. The game was over at the end of the third quarter. The game was over. There's no reason to be on the floor. You were outscored in the third quarter, 37 to 26, after being down 15 at the half. The game was over. Okay? Over. No starter should have been on the floor in the fourth quarter tonight.
You know what's crazy about it? The Kings got the lead down to 10. And then they proceeded to turn the ball over 3 straight times, 2 of which were 24-second violations. And the Knicks hit 3 triples in a row. Game was over at that point. But my question to you is, knowing the type of coach that Doug is and the money that the fans pay to come to these games, is there a duty to keep what he feels competitive product on the floor?
No, absolutely not. You never coach a game for the fans. Never. You coach a game what's in the best interest of your team. And the best interest of your team is to be ready to play this very difficult stretch coming up. And the only thing that can happen by having your starters on the floor in a blowout are injuries. That's it. That's it.
Right. And I'm not going to say it's complicated because Tibbs, he plays his guys regularly into the 40s. Yeah. He will do that. And they've had 2 days off. Get them some run. But
and by the way, none of the Knicks starters played over 37 minutes. Bridges played 34, Anunoby 37, Towns 28, McBride 32, and Josh Hart 31. They didn't play a lot of minutes.
Yep, it's a very good point. In fact, let me get some of those numbers up for us as we talk about it.
And they didn't need to play a lot of minutes. There was no reason to. The game was over early. This game was over. I don't care whether they got it down to 10 or not. This game was over at the end of the first quarter. That's really when this game ended. The game was over in the first quarter. The Kings were down 20 points before they even knew that the game had started. The game was over before halftime.
Yeah, in some ways, you might have seen a more competitive product putting some of the younger guys out there, Grant.
Yes, I think so.
Early in the fourth.
Absolutely.
Fresh legs. I love seeing, and I know you're a fan of this guy, Mason Jones, get in there. I would have liked to see him get more than 5 minutes and 56 seconds.
Why is he only playing? I mean, he should have played double-digit minutes tonight.
Correct. And here's the other thing about LaVine. Coach pulled Keon out before he pulled Zach LaVine out. He brought Fultz in for Keon.
The minutes by the bench make no sense to me at all tonight. They didn't play enough. This is a game where you just have you let your guys at the end of the bench play and get minutes. I didn't understand that. Again, I'm nitpicking here because you're going to lose the game either way. But some of the things that go on just don't make sense to me.
Well, it's not nitpicking when we're 18 games, I believe, away from the end of the season. And you're going to be playing at least 1, probably 2 to get into the playoffs. You got to keep your guys fresh. You got a back-to-back coming up starting Thursday.
And then you have another one a couple of evenings later.
Yeah. And no slouches either that back-to-back. Games that absolutely matter to the standings against good teams. So the bright side for me was getting to see 4 Stockton Kings on the floor at the same time because I cover them so closely, and I really like the product down there. The downside, Grant, the assists and the turnovers tonight, a complete nightmare. Even in the third quarter, it was 13-13 assists to turnovers.
For the game, it was 18 assists, 16 turnovers. Terrible.
Yeah, pretty bad. Pretty darn bad. If you would like to, the hardcores of the hardcores, the 393 of you that are with us right now live, we appreciate you. We appreciate everybody catching the replay. If you'd like to call the show, you can hit the link that's in the chat or scan the QR code.
Katie didn't really say this, did she?
They were down 30, and Katie said they should put in the starters if they want a chance to come back. I did not hear that.
Let's hope that didn't happen, please. It wouldn't shock me, but please hope that didn't happen.
I did not hear that. Tay, thanks for kicking us off, buddy.
Hi, good evening. I totally concur with everyone that this is a scheduled loss, and even when they got it down to 10 points in the third quarter, I didn't think they had a chance to win. But that 3 straight 3-pointers and started off by a wide open shot by Karl Anthony Towns and a lazy closeout by Jonas. I forget who made the other 2, but I just remember those were lazy closeouts too. Completely unacceptable despite a scheduled loss. Knicks made 22 3-pointers tonight, and guess what? That is their season high.
Yep.
Teams come into Golden One Center and they set records. I remember back in November, San Antonio also set a record. I just bring this up because, 3-point defense, at this point of the season, I don't really know what they can do better except Doug Christie needs to lock them up and run a boot camp or something because these closeouts are really, really unacceptable and lazy, and they're just momentum killers. Again, I didn't think they had the chance to come back even when they brought it down, but that type of defensive effort is just completely unacceptable.
Tay, we've seen some of it, and you're an educated fan, man. We've seen some very good defense from this team since the All-Star break. I'm not going to go through the numbers. Grant hates that, but we've seen better defense than probably at the beginning of the season. The 3-point attempts are down to a season low, which is 12th worst in the NBA, 18th overall. So I disagree. I mean, maybe the closeouts were bad tonight, but this team defensively doesn't need to be locked in a room. They had to pack the paint tonight because they were so mismatched because of injuries and guys that weren't available.
Yeah, good point. I get that. I get that side of the.
And the Kings are probably a better, and the Kings are not a better team without Monk and Sabonis, but they're a better defensive team without Monk and Sabonis. I think you can make that statement.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
that's a conversation. Anything else from the game, Tay?
No, I think it's kind of disappointing that we lost, the last, 3 games, against the playoff, caliber teams, Clippers, Nuggets, and tonight they're not in the West, but we're beating teams and more often than not blowing out the teams we're supposed to, but against the quality teams, the team's just not getting the win. So I think more or less at this point, we're not gonna get the 6th seed, and
No.
I think that's out of the question. So I think we need to, focus on at least going 500 in the next couple of weeks. So
yeah, I would be. There's no way they're going 500 the rest of the way. It's not happening. I'm just sorry, it's not happening.
Yeah, I think with the amount of the teams that they're facing, I get it too. And it was interesting. I was looking at the Clippers schedule, and they faced the Mavs twice, New Orleans twice, Brooklyn. A lot of their schedule is relatively easy, so they're probably gonna end up getting the 7th or 8th seed, depending on whether Warriors or Timberwolves continue their streak. And with that being said, I see us potentially facing off with the Mavericks or Suns. I wouldn't like our chances against Devin Booker and Kevin Durant in a one match, in a knockout game. So, assuming Davis doesn't come back, I like our chances against the Mavs. So I agree with you again. We're probably not gonna go 500, but as long as we can stay afloat, I think that's where we're probably gonna end up. At worst 10th seed.
Thanks, man. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Appreciate you, Tay.
133 to 104, the final, as the Knicks get the big win tonight. Ryno?
Grant, I'm pretty confident sitting here with as many games as the Kings have left, saying the Kings will be the 9 or the 10 seed.
Yes,
play it.
absolutely. Yes, they're going to lose both games to Cleveland. They're going to lose to Oklahoma City. I think they're going to lose at Detroit. I think they're going to lose against Boston. I think they're going to lose against the Bucks. Memphis, they can win without Jaren Jackson, but I think that will be a toss-up type of a game. I think they're going to lose to the Clippers. I just don't see a lot of wins left on the schedule. I'm sorry, I don't. There's the schedule for you. I just, I don't see it. I think they'll beat Chicago. I mean, if they lose at Phoenix, okay,
that's right.
That will start. If they lose, because I think they're going to lose against the Warriors. If they lose at Phoenix, that will start the complete downward spiral for this team with that schedule: Memphis, Cleveland, Chicago, Milwaukee, Boston, Oklahoma City. That is going to be lights out. Goodbye.
I think that's what I was trying to get at with you and Jerry at halftime. If the Kings are in this situation, and what makes it a little bit trickier is it's national TV on Thursday, but if you're down 20-25 to Golden State with 6 minutes left in the third, you've got to shift your attention to Phoenix.
Yep.
If you see what happened tonight happen on
Yep.
Thursday, that's where this thing, just as you said, can start unraveling, because you can't lose that game in Phoenix.
No. Nope. And you play Phoenix twice. You're
Right.
100% correct.
That's your
you cannot
direct
lose that game.
competition. That is your
Well,
direct
not-
competition.
Not only that, you want to knock Phoenix out because you're going to
Right.
much rather play Dallas than Phoenix.
100%. Great point. Absolutely right.
I mean, you don't want to see Phoenix in a one-game elimination tournament. I don't want to play Kevin Durant and Devin Booker in a 48-minute winner-take-all game. I don't want to see Grayson Allen in a 48-minute, winner-take-all game. And I'm not saying that, the Suns would be licking their chops having to guard DeRozan and LaVine for 42 minutes, but
Sure.
I just don't like that scenario for Sacramento.
Yeah. They have bit the Kings. It's pretty much the same Phoenix roster as last year, and they bit the Kings twice late in the season. Games both the Kings should have won, had 10-point leads in. So what percentage of a coin, not even a coin flip, what percentage do you give that if you saw Phoenix in a one-game sample size for the Kings?
50-50.
You go 50-50?
Yeah, I would, assuming that the Kings are healthy with Sabonis and Valanciunas and LaVine and DeRozan. Yeah, I think it's 50-50. I think it's a toss-up.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think it matters where the game's played. I actually would feel better if the game were on the road than at home. But the game's going to be in all likelihood in Sacramento. I'd rather be in Phoenix.
Yeah. No, I hear you. There were a lot of things tonight that didn't make sense from a game plan standpoint. The fact that they didn't play as much zone as Jerry thought they should. I thought zone would have been a key, Grant. The other thing was continuing to go to the dribble handoffs with Valanciunas and Trey Lyles. There were a couple of just really bad turnovers because those guys aren't dribble handoff guys.
Terrible.
They're pick and roll guys.
The game plan was terrible tonight.
Yeah, just not a good night overall.
Nope, not a good night overall. And there are a lot of things you can pick on. You can't pick, though, on New Works Plumbing because they're awesome, and they will get the job done for you. New Works Plumbing, available around the clock 24/7. They've got a fix for you. Call the number on your screen, sackserviceplumbing.com or newworksplumbing.com, NEWWRXplumbing.com. They are awesome. And again, they are available 24/7. Don't forget a rant with Grant coming up a little bit later in this post-game show. Give me some ideas with a rant with Grant.
Got to show this guy some love, Grant. Patrick, still up number one. Number two, he called the Kings court this afternoon.
Nice.
And I said, who's going to be the difference maker with Brunson out? You know who he said?
Who?
McBride. And he was spot freaking on.
Yep.
Spot on.
Yep. Good for him. Well, he watches the Knicks every night. He knows that team inside and out.
Yep. Good job by him. So, what's it like on an NBA bench when a game's that out of control? Are guys trying to sneak some snacks in, focused
Um,
on?
every team's different. You're going to go on that both sides. I mean, you're going to be on the side where you're laughing and joking around because you're up 35 or 40, and then, the shoe's on the other foot. You try not to giggle or laugh or do anything like that that's going to show up on camera and give the perception you don't care. So you
Right.
pretty much sit there with a towel over your head and just can't wait for the final horn to sound so you can get the hell out of there.
Yeah, send some guys back for treatment early. Maybe that's Malik left, returned to the bench, but
Yep.
man, tough 48 hours. Has there been a harder 48 hours this
24
season?
hours.
24 hours, excuse me, for this
Yep.
team that you can remember?
There have
Outside
been
of the
some bad
Brown
24-hour
firing.
stretches. There have been some bad 24-hour stretches. I said on my show this afternoon that I was not expecting the Kings to win. I just didn't think that they were going to win this game tonight for a variety of reasons, and I laid them out on my 5 o'clock show. I'm not surprised they got blown out tonight. I'm really not. And I don't really even pay attention to what happened in this game because I didn't think they were going to win a game before it started. I just thought it was a schedule game, and I'm going to try to erase it from my mind as hard as it is and get ready for the Warriors.
Yeah, there's schedules games, and then there's getting beat the way that they got beat. I think it's got to be somewhere in between there for me. Jay, what's up tonight?
What's going on? How you guys doing?
Hey, Jay.
Oh, well, I agree with Grant and you, Ryno, for sure. I kind of just put the game on and let it be on in the background. I wasn't really focused on it. But there's definitely a difference between scheduled games and getting a butt whooping like you did tonight. And I think looking back at it, I kind of disagree a little bit with what you said in the beginning, Grant. With I came in thinking that they were going to lose. I didn't. I think we had a better chance to win without Sabonis because they didn't have their head of the snake in Brunson, and they were on a losing streak. So I didn't want to sit here and say, we're winning for sure. But I did think we had a decent shot, at least 40-60, there. Um, but I mean, to say kind of wrap up, this past couple games with the new regime, you can call it. I do think we'll end up making the play-in for certain. There's a couple teams behind us that's going to be pretty tough for them.
Which is
to.
not a successful season, just making the play-in. That's not
It's
any
not.
reason to get your champagne out and your pom-poms.
No,
and you
no,
also
no.
don't want to back into it either.
Very true.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, we can say that now, but our schedule is really tough as well. And you got a team like the Suns. They're 5 games away from 500, and it looks like a 500 seed team will get you that 10th spot in the play-in. There's a lot of things that could go on.
Well, just so you
between
know,
now and
being
then.
5 games away from 500 with this amount of games left is a gigantic mountain to climb. That's not just like a little bit. That's
How many
like
games
a
are
big
left?
deal. Well, it's not the same for every team, but if you're looking at the Suns, okay, and not only that, their schedule is as difficult, if not more
The
difficult
hardest in the NBA.
than
Oh, really?
Sacramento. They only have 17 games left. You know how they're not going to go to.
Okay.
There's no chance they're going 500. I'm telling you
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now, there's no chance in the world they're going 500. It's not happening.
The schedule sounds kind of daunting with these next 2 games this week, but like you guys said, I didn't realize there was only 17 left, and I know Phoenix's locker room isn't doing too well with a lot of media going around in that locker room. So I think we can hopefully with Domas and a healthy squad get that win in Phoenix, even though it's a back-to-back. It's historically been terrible with when we play back-to-backs, but I think we can get that win, and hopefully we can beat the Warriors for sure. They look pretty good, but we'll see.
Whoa. Why would you say hopefully you can beat the Warriors for sure? No, the Kings are going to be big underdogs going into that game. The Warriors are playing almost as well as anyone in the league right now. Why would you say for sure?
That was the wrong word. I realized that when I said it. I meant of course.
It's like
of
an
course.
add-on, Grant.
Like
It's
of
like
course
you
hope that we beat the Warriors. Of course we hope
statement.
that. I meant to say that.
There you go.
Grant was waiting.
Yeah,
Grant's
he's
ready to
waiting.
go.
He's looking for something.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting too? Not that the Kings are going to be in their territory, but two teams that are dealing with injuries, the Lakers and Memphis, they have the 4th and 5th respective hardest schedules coming home.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about the
Memphis
Lakers.
without Jaren Jackson, that's a problem for them.
Yeah, I mean the Lakers, they're 2 seed, 3 seed. They won't fall past the 4th seed probably. I wouldn't imagine that. So I wouldn't be too worried. I mean, you're a top 6 seed guaranteed, so I'm not rushing to bring LeBron back on the court or anything like that if I'm the Lakers.
That Luka trade, man, that just changed the dynamics in the West to a degree because it felt like it was kind of a changing of the guard. You felt like the Lakers were going to start kind of exiting stage left, and that just shakes things up a lot.
Yeah, I really can't wait to see what the Lakers do when LeBron retires and they free up $50 million in cap space and who they're going to pair with Luka.
Yeah,
that's what I'm waiting for.
Should be interesting. Dallas fans were polled, and 80% have either tuned out the team or are not interested anymore.
No, they're done.
80% since the trade.
Yep.
Oh, I would be very upset. I don't know if you heard what Mark Cuban said a few years ago, but
I did. Yeah.
He said, if it was between him and his wife, or excuse me, Luka and his wife, you could catch him at the divorce attorney's office or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
you didn't hear that, Ryno?
I did not hear that.
I heard
no.
that.
Yeah, you got to Google that. But
good stuff. Well, appreciate the call, Jay. Good job.
Yeah, I did hear Mark Cuban say that. I can guarantee you Luka would still be on the Mavs if Mark Cuban still owned the team. Hey, I want to tell you about Sunrise Landing in Calusa. You go to calusasunrise.com and you'll get all of the information on Sunrise Landing from Blazona Development. You can check out more in depth at the beautiful models, the different lot sizes, the different phases that they have. They're moving along very nicely out at Sunrise Landing, adjacent to the Calusa Golf and Country Club. And these beautiful homes in this beautiful neighborhood, there's no Mellorews and there's no homeowners. And it's easy access, whether it's I-5, Highway 45, Highway 20. Go to calusasunrise.com and get all the information you need on Sunrise Landing in Calusa. 133 to 104. Think about this. In 2 games against a defensive-minded team, not an offensive team, the Kings gave up 142 points and 133 points.
How much weren't the Knicks coming off of a decent
143.
Weren't the Knicks coming off of a decent amount of rest when the Kings went into Madison Square Garden?
Yes, they were. Yep. 3 nights. Yep.
Vaguely similar.
Yep. 3 days.
G Money, welcome in tonight.
G Money, what's happening?
What's going on? We're shaking and baking. What's going on? Please smash the likes for what's good. I'm doing great. Well, I'm a Knicks fan. I won't brag too much. I'm a Knicks fan. Man, it was a Barker bomb squad tonight. I mean, 22 money balls from New York. New York's defense was like hungry tiger sharks in the sea. I mean, they were a good on-ball defense. The cat like XT5 was going to the basket at Will's 3-ball was wet. Landry Shamet was hot like a blowtorch. And also Deuce McBride, he came out popping like it was high in the first quarter. And it was just a picture-perfect night for my Knicks, dog. For the Kings, I mean, Sacramento won. The problem with the Kings is that their on-ball defense was just not on point in this game. Their ball move really wasn't there, and the Kings just looked like a step slow. They looked like they were stuck in the Bermuda Triangle. That's why they got beaten to a pulp tonight. I think they'll bounce back, though.
How many years have you been a Knicks fan?
I've been a Knicks fan my whole life.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So let me ask you this. Are you worried about OG's ankle?
Yeah, I was a little bit worried though because he blew a Mercedes-Benz flat tire there. I was a little bit worried though because OG's had a history of being brittle, so I was a little bit worried though.
Yep.
Thank God he bounced back up and didn't really break a sweat because if you know OG's history, sometimes he doesn't like to play through pain a lot. So yeah, I was a little bit worried.
Yeah, it was. I mean, his roll didn't look as bad as Brunson, but it was a full roll to the outside. It did not look good at first.
Hey, let me ask you a question because you watch the Knicks more than I do. Let's assume that they're healthy when the playoffs start. What chances would you give them to beat either Boston or Cleveland in a series?
I mean, they have a chance. Do I think New York would knock off Cleveland and Boston? I think that's a little bit too much to ask. The games have to be played, so New York has a chance to KO both teams. If I have to throw a bullet at the dart, I'll probably say Celtics and Cavs like 5 or 6 over my Knickerbockers. Either way, since the games have to be played, New York does have a shot to knock off Cleveland and Boston. I don't think they would, though.
All right. Hey, man, we appreciate you calling in. Thanks very much.
Yeah. G Money getting some love on the chat line. The Mercedes-Benz blown tire. How about that? That's pretty good. I don't think anybody's ever said that here.
No.
Oh, my goodness.
133 to 104, the final. Hard to believe the Kings gave up 143 and 133 in 2 games to the Knicks.
Is that the same team, New York, what did they score last game? It was 95?
Yep, against the Clippers. Yep.
95 points.
Yep, and they lost to the Lakers in overtime, albeit they had Jalen Brunson until he got hurt in overtime. But still, they had lost 3 in a row. And I'm telling you, I know Tom Thibodeau pretty well.
Yeah,
I know Tibbs pretty well. There was no question in my mind what Knicks team was showing up tonight. I said that today on the show.
Did.
You know,
why doesn't Tom Thibodeau come home? If you know what I mean. He's just got a few strands left on the top of the head, but they're still combed over. Just come home. Embrace it.
I met Tibbs. You know, Dave Yeager was very friendly with Tibbs, and he would have him come on some of our road games. And that's when I got to know Tibbs and talk to him. And I found him to be fascinating to talk to. He's a no nonsense, just, you know, like, here's what I think. And it was just fun to have a conversation with him because he's so animated coaching a game on the sidelines. He's so animated. He's not like that in real life. He's actually very quiet and reserved. He's just a completely different guy than he is on the sidelines.
Well, there was a lot of people that didn't think he was going to be a good hire in New York.
I know.
Thought he was going to be a retread.
Last year, I'm walking in my neighborhood in Miami, and Tibbs this is right before the season began, and he was at the hotel on the island that I live on in Miami. Yeah. And I saw him, and he was having breakfast, and, you know, he was a little bit above me, and there was kind of a fence, so people wouldn't fall over onto the walkway. Yeah. And it's just funny. You know, Tibbs started talking to me like there was nobody around. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like it was just like other people are out there and enjoying their breakfast and everything. And Tibbs he didn't know I lived there and started asking me all these questions. Then we started talking about basketball. It was a trip. I didn't tell you this story. So on that same island, I'm doing my rant 2 years ago with the beautiful Miami backdrop and the water in the background. And the walkway is underneath me. My back is to that, right? So I'm doing my rant, and I hear someone yell, "If you don't like that." And I stop immediately, and I go over to the ramp, and over the railing, and I look, and it's Jeff Van Gundy.
No way.
And Van Gundy goes, "I listen to your rants every day, man. How you doing?" I go, "Good, Jeff." And he kept on walking. How's that?
That is awesome.
Yep.
I love
he told
that.
Me, I watch your rants all the time. I heard your voice, and I'm like, oh, wow. You know, he goes, I knew. Then I saw him at the local market where he eats lunch every time he's in Miami. And I happened to see him the next day. He said, "Man, I heard that voice." I go, "I know that can only be one person."
Well, you hear the voice, or it's not like you really blend in with a crowd either.
No.
You know, if you know Napes, you know Napes.
Anyway, that was my little stories of South Florida. But Tibbs is he's a lifer, if I can use that term. Like, basketball is his life. He eats, sleeps, and drinks it. And he had some issues in Minnesota with Jimmy Butler, and he had some issues in Chicago. And a lot of people thought that the New York market would be too much for him, even though he had been an assistant there. But, you know, his personality, his fire in one sense is perfect for New York. But what would happen when things got rough? Because he works for a very difficult owner in James Dolan. But I got to give Tibbs credit. He's done a hell of a job at the Knicks. I give him a lot of credit.
Yeah, how has the narrative kind of changed? And we're going to talk some Kings some more, but how's the narrative changed a little bit around Dolan with the Knicks' success? I don't hear his name nearly as much in a negative light.
Well, interesting you say that. Success in New York is different than what you think a success is.
Sure.
All right. Last year was really the first successful season that the Knicks have had in a long time, if you're basing it on playoff series. And then they had all of the injuries. Okay. Success in New York is not making the playoffs. Success in New York is, you know, winning a couple of playoff series and then advancing to a conference finals and a NBA championship, because it has been so long. But Dolan has been relatively quiet. There's no question about that.
Yeah, and allowing his front office and make some bold moves, and Jalen Brunson taking the pay cut to hopefully have that reinvested in the team.
All right, we are inviting your phone calls. If you want to get on with us to talk about the game, you can do so. Don't forget a rant with Grant coming up in just a little bit. And don't forget about Bennett's, their prime seafood and steaks, whether you are at the West Side Grill in Rockland or their location in Sacramento or Roseville. You will find the same great quality food, prime seafood and steaks at Bennett's. Go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com. That's Bennett'sRestaurants.com to make a reservation. That bottom right-hand corner, every time it gets me. Love that New York. It is my favorite. Make sure you get to Bennett's, whether it's Roseville, Sacramento, or the West Side Grill in Rockland. Bennett'sRestaurants.com for your reservations.
So obviously I have been traveling for the last couple weeks and do not have a Bennett's around me. But
boy,
when you did the read last show yesterday, I'm like, damn, that looks good. And I looked at the time and I'm like, I've only got a couple of options, like chain restaurant options. Like, I'm going to get a steak. Oh, it wasn't even. I mean, it was.
No.
Yeah. It was not Bennett's, that's for sure.
And when I am in Florida, in South Florida, there's some phenomenal restaurants. The problem is I can't afford it. So, like, you know, if it's not a special occasion, Miami is so expensive now to go eat the restaurants. Oh, my God. Like, it's ridiculous.
It was already expensive before this.
No, it's crazy.
Did it take you long to find many holes in the wall, like the little good neighborhood places?
Yes and no. I'm not that far from the Cubatown part of Miami, and there's some really good local, inexpensive eateries where there's basically the contingency. I forget what they actually call it. Is it Cubatown? It's called.
There's San Diego has Little Italy.
I mean, I should know. I'm having a brain freeze here, but that's not that far from me. And there's some pretty good area, and I can walk there from where I live. So that's not that bad.
It's a shame that you don't drink coffee, Cuban coffee. Incredible.
Yeah, you know, I've never had a cup of coffee. You know, when I went to Vietnam, everyone was telling me that Vietnam's got some of the best coffee in the world. And people that go to Vietnam swear to me, oh, you got to try the coffee. It's the best. It's the best. Like, I don't drink coffee. And so I started asking some people that I ran into in Vietnam that I saw drinking coffee that looked like they were English speaking. I go, hey, how's the coffee here? And they go, oh, my God, it's the best. That's why we're drinking it. I don't know what it is, but they swear on the Vietnamese
that's
coffee.
not for you, my friend. That's not for you. That's like saying I've never had a drink, and that's like me throwing across the bar a shot of 151. Here you go, Nate. Sip on that.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Dirk wants to know if that's why I did the water fast. Yeah, to save money? Yeah, I did the water fast for 72 hours. It did save me a lot of money. Good job right there, Dirk. Absolutely.
You're killing me. You're killing me. Back to the Kings really quick. One area of concern that we have talked about is Zach LaVine the turnovers, the basketball IQ.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get a tiny bit worried that teams are beginning to target that with Zach, giving him a little bit more leisure to make a play, even though you don't want to give him too much space. And that could be a problem as we get closer to the end of the season and better teams.
He was on the near wing tonight in front of the bench out on the left forecourt, kind of to the left side of the key, and made just a horrible pass.
Oh, yeah.
To DeRozan, I believe, who was trying to make a cut, but he was actually guarded by two guys. And I think it was OG picked off the ball and went the entire length and then kicked it out for a wide open three.
Yep.
And I went back and looked at that again, and I'm thinking to myself, even if you're tired, you don't make a pass like that. I mean, it was just like, what on earth are you looking at? That it had no chance,
right? And
of being completed. 5 turnovers tonight for Zach LaVine,
and he's good for 1 or 2 of those a game. In fact, tonight there was a second one, almost exactly as you're explaining, except OG ended up blowing the layup. Josh Hart got fouled on the follow and ended up getting free throws, and that's what it is. It's the bad decision, but it's still making the bad decision late after you're already seeing a bad decision right there in front of you.
And by the way, what a pleasure it was to be able to listen to Mike Breen tonight. Oh my God.
I bet.
Wow. I could actually watch a Kings game with a real announcer. I was just like, thank the Lord.
I wonder how Sacramento fans would do if they had 10:30 game starts like New York has for more than a handful.
Very good. Not very good
this season.
All the New York teams, when they hit the West Coast, they don't get very good numbers at all.
Yeah, that would be difficult for sure.
It's very difficult. I mean, you're thinking about 10:30. Don't think about 10:30. Think about 12:30 or 1 o'clock. That's when the games. Think about that. If the games are good and they're entertaining and close, which that wasn't the case tonight, you got to stay up till 1 a.m. It's why my brother decided when the Giants moved to MetLife Stadium. In addition to the first reason was PSLs, but even before that, he never went to Monday night games because he's a school teacher. And the games used to start at 9 Eastern. The game didn't end till after midnight. And by the time you get into the parking lot and fight the traffic, he's getting home at 2:30 and he's got to get up at 6 to go teach. He said, I can't do it anymore.
Well,
I'm like, I get it.
Plus the adrenaline of going to the game. It's not like you go to a game and just put your head on the pillow usually.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Changes.
No question. I mean, it was a little different for me because I used to commute from California to go to the games. So I used to tell my brother, I go, wait a minute, you can't drive an hour and I got to fly 6 hours and I haven't even slept yet. I used to get on his case all the time. I'm like, you're complaining about going to I go, you know what? I just flew, all night and now I'm going to fly back all night, and I didn't even take anything with me on the airplane. This is what I got.
But that's what's different about you, because you, 1, enjoy flying, and 2, your job required you to be on an airplane so much. Most people preparing to fly, we would never just walk on in our clothes. We would bring something just in case for contingency.
Yeah, not me. I'm like, no, I walked on the plane with nothing other than nothing.
You're lucky you didn't get pulled aside to like the special search area.
The special security.
Yeah.
Sir, you have carry-on? No. Do you have checked luggage? No. Excuse me, you going to New York?
Right. No bags. Do you have a return ticket? No good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Let's bring on Andre. Thanks for calling the show tonight, Andre.
Hey, what's up, Grant? What's up, Ryno?
Can't hear you, Andre.
Speak up, buddy.
Can you hear me?
No.
Hello?
Barely hear you. It's like you're talking in a cave on the other side of the country. Thanks for trying, though.
We'll give him a second to get it figured out. Rant ideas, everybody. Give us some rant ideas.
I need some rant ideas. I really do. It's interesting. You brought up something a moment ago. I know the guy that is in charge of putting together the NBA schedule.
Yeah.
And obviously computers do most of it, but I've talked to him about it. And it's probably the most challenging thing that fans don't realize, because you're not only dealing with teams' schedules, you're dealing with arena availability. Arenas in advance book the ice shows, the circus, concerts. Then you have like the Knicks. They share the building with the Rangers, okay?
Mm-hmm.
In the past, you had 3 teams playing at the Staples Center. That's why a lot of times you would have a Kings-Clippers game at 12:30 and then a Lakers game that same night, or a hockey game, all right?
Yep.
It happened all the time. So when you think about, how come the Kings are playing 3 games in 4 nights and the Knicks have a couple of days off? Well, I don't have the answer verbatim, but what I can tell you is there are a lot of variables that go into it, especially when you're dealing with a team like New York, although it did not apply tonight because they were on the road. But Ryan made a good point. The Knicks had a couple of days off before the Kings played them. Well, they had the New York Rangers that had a game maybe the night before. Maybe you had a concert. You had WWE. You had the UFC. You've got all kinds of stuff going on. Madison Square Garden's got an event almost every night.
Yeah.
And so when the schedule maker gets this and the computer, at times you can go, why is that? Well, again, arena availability has a lot to do with it. But I would say this. It is extremely, I'll just use the word, unfair to have a team play 3 games in 4 nights against a team that's already been on the West Coast that's got 2 full days off. We saw it last year. One of the worst schedule decisions I had ever seen. When the Kings played Orlando, all right, then the very next day they had to fly home, have a game the next night and a game the following night. 3 games in 4 nights when you were just on the other side of the country 72 hours earlier. I mean, it made no sense to me.
Right. It's that very small window off.
I don't mean to interrupt. Here's a really good one by Michael. Every year, the Spurs do what they call is the rodeo road trip.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the rodeo road trip. The rodeo is in town before the All-Star break and after the All-Star break, almost for the entire month of February. The Spurs are on the road for like 3 straight weeks every February, and that's nothing you can do about it. The rodeo is there, and they're booked every February.
It's the world
it's been going on for years.
It's the world championship, I believe. It does not move. Yeah, I believe outside of the PBR, it's not the PBR's championship because there's in Vegas. But yeah, whatever their group is, it's a big thing. We've got some audio. Doug Christie, if you want to hear some of that, we can try Andre first. Andre, what's up?
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Let me try to turn you up to the max here. Go ahead, talk.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on here.
No, can't do it. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah,
Appreciate
it's too low,
effort.
bud.
We just can't hear you. Hey, before we get to Doug Christie's audio, I want to tell you about Element Mortgage and Connor. And now you can see we got a QR code up for you. And look at, you think he spends a little time in the gym? Our man Connor from Element Mortgage. Good job right there. Wow. I like that.
Hope he does legs day, Connor. Don't be that guy, Connor.
You are an absolute beauty. Anyway, there's the number to give him a call at 916-505-1006. If you are buying a home, selling a home, maybe doing a refi, go get in touch with Connor at Element Mortgage. The team behind him is exceptional. They got over 100 years of experience. And Connor himself, I mean, they're great. Over 1,000 loans closed over the past 7 years. He's a local product from Sacramento, big-time Kings fan, so I know he's not doing well tonight. But his business and what he can do for you, trust and experience. That's what you get with Connor, an independent mortgage bank. They can do anything under the sun with lending programs. They're a one-stop shop. There's the QR code for you. All right. That will get you everything you need to contact Connor. I've also got the phone number at 916-505-1006. And there is Connor, who, by the way, if you want to know his physical fitness regimen, he was a Division I wrestler. All right. So don't mess with Connor.
Cal Poly.
Right?
Yeah.
916.
He has a good base.
1006. What's that, buddy?
I said he has a good base if he was a wrestler.
Love that. So get in touch with him at Element Mortgage. Trust, experience. That's what you're going to get with Connor, and a big Kings fan.
I'll tell you this much. I thought some of the stuff we did in high school for football, basketball, then college, a different level. But thinking back to what the high school wrestlers, like when you would peek in the wrestling room, the stuff they were doing.
Not even close.
Right. Exactly. Just
wrestling is a different animal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You got to give up your ears to do it right. I'm going to leave this one for you. I have my input, but you know the answer spot on. Why didn't
there's no reason. The Kings last night would have landed by 12:30. Even if it's 1 o'clock in the morning, it doesn't make sense. You always sleep in your own bed. That's not late. Listen, if you had stayed in LA, you think the players are going right into their hotel and going to sleep? They're going to go eat. Then they're going to watch TV or do their thing. They're going to call their families, and they're not going to go to sleep until 1 o'clock anyway. So why not fly home and you're in your own bed by 1:30 in the morning? There's no reason to sleep overnight. You still would have lost. You still would have gotten smoked. But no, then you have to travel on a game day. Not only that, you could run into a problem on a game day. Let's say your charter has a mechanical.
Yeah.
Now what do? You're stuck in LA and you got to wait for another plane to get there. And maybe you don't arrive at the arena until 6 o'clock. No, you don't ever do that. Never.
And also treatment. It is much easier. I know some of the Kings were back at the arena once they got home last night getting treatment. So
I don't think so. But is that what you heard? I don't believe that.
That's what they said on the telecast.
Yeah, I find that very hard to believe. Generally speaking, most athletic trainers will tell you to get a good night's sleep and then we'll see you in the morning, as opposed to, because they can do treatment on the airplane.
Okay. Well,
so I find that hard to believe. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying I find that very hard to believe.
You know best. You would.
It doesn't make sense to me. On 3 games in 4 nights, any athletic trainer is going to tell a player, go home, do this, and we'll see you in the morning. They're not going to take you to the arena and give you treatment because they've already given you treatment on the airplane.
Well, Monk and Sabonis weren't on the trip either. That was the big treatment.
Well, then there you have it. Who else would have needed treatment?
Everybody's dealing with something.
Well, then again, that's what you have an hour flight. You can do what you need to do on the airplane. There's no way that they went to the arena.
I don't think you can do what you can do on the airplane
same
that you can at the facility.
No, but you can do. I've seen it done before. You can do stuff. My point is, other than LaRavia, right?
Yeah. Good
but
point.
But again, most trainers are going to say, go home and sleep, and we'll see you in the morning.
Yep. All right, Patrick. Thanks for the super chat, buddy. Pair character putting his hand in front of his mouth while brushing. Oh, got it. It is an emoji that we can't see, but it looks like a legitimate comment. Good job.
Oh,
Patrick.
Oh,
good enough.
Okay.
Here was Doug after the game.
Messaging to them. There's absolutely no excuses in this league. The league does not.
Let's go to a different feed. That was a little quiet for me.
Really gifted isolation scores in DeRozan and LaVine. You've also talked about wanting to have a kind of a free-flowing offense, not drop plays or anything like that.
No, we draw plays.
Well, okay, but
okay, we'll
what is
it right?
What is the balance with letting them rock and letting them do their thing in isolation and wanting them to move the basketball out of those spots? Where's that balance?
Well, the balance is breaking the shot clock down into 3 sections. The first section is transition and flow. So that's 8 seconds. The second is getting ourselves into sets if that first flow isn't there. And then the last 8 seconds is when you get to your business, because that's what they do. That's what they get paid to do. But to get there, You got to trust your teammates. Get out and run. What's there? What's there? Nothing's there. Boom. Set it out. Okay. Elbow. Okay. Boom. He pops. Nothing's there. Now we're down to butter clock. That's where they're special at. But if you don't allow yourself to get there, now you find yourself in a world of trouble versus a really good defensive team. And what I'm saying, you have to spend energy to do that. That ain't easy. There's trust involved in that. There's a lot of different things that involve. It sounds easy, but I'm from somebody who did it my whole life. That ain't easy, man, because these guys are physical. They're letting them touch you. All of a sudden you get in your feelings because I don't want to be touched, and I'm about to show you I got game. We can't get personal like that. Let it do what it do. Get out and run. If it's there, great. If it's not, set up something. It could be simple. It could just be a drag. As soon as the drag starts, kick the ball ahead, still nothing. Call somebody into a go screen in the last 8 seconds, and we got two of the best ISO players in the league. Bang.
I hate that. Napes?
Hey, can I ask you a question? Is there a way to hear Doug's opening statement where he was getting ready to talk about there are no excuses, this in this league? Do we have the beginning? Because those are the comments I would really like to hear.
Sure. Why don't you do your rant, and I'll try to get those polls.
Okay, sounds good. I will do my rant, and we need to get your mic now turned up a little bit too, as Grant's rant is brought to you by EDH Motors Automotive Reimagined. David and Adam, just two guys trying to do something different and better. They are looking to sell you a vehicle. If you have a vehicle that you want to sell, well, get in touch with them. You got the phone number there. You got the email. I will also put up their website for you so you can go to edhmotors.com and check everything out there. This is a long overdue new concept at EDH Motors. No dealership, folks. You're going to go to the Auto Lounge at the El Dorado Hills Town Center. And if you're looking to buy a vehicle, you go to edhmotors.com. You can see what they have. If you don't see what you're looking for, no problem. Let David and Adam, with their decades of automotive experience, get it for you, and they will. They'll take care of it for you. EDHmotors.com. Get in touch with David and Adam. EDH Motors, Automotive Reimagined. The one thing that I keep hearing from Kings coaches this year, whether it was Mike Brown or Doug Christie, there are too many postgame shows where they talk about unacceptable, right? No excuses. We heard Mike Brown talk about the players aren't paying attention to the fine details. We went over this. We did this. We went over this. Too many times this year, Doug has had to come out and talk about the Sacramento fans deserve better and that, they're loyal fans and blah, blah, blah. No excuses. Too many times in a year for me to hear that, which once again signifies to me that the locker room is not all on board with what's going on. We knew that to be true after the De'Aaron Fox trade because certain things came out. De'Aaron himself talking about how a couple of players didn't want Mike retained after last season. So we knew that the locker room was not harmonious. I don't know what the locker room is like now, but I don't like the fact that this year we have had to hear from two different coaches talking about the same issues with this team after bad losses. In all credit to Doug, he doesn't make excuses, and I like that about Doug. Not one time has he made an excuse. He's not making travel as an excuse. He's not making a back-to-back as an excuse, and I like that about Doug. That's his personality. That's his grit, and I applaud him for that. But just too many times, the coaches having to basically call out their team for lack of effort or this or that, it's not a good sign. It's one of the reasons why the Kings are only 2 games over 500 with the season winding down. And that's my rant for tonight. We'll get Ryan back on here in a moment, and we'll see if we can get the... There we go. See if we get that audio or not. Audio, you got your mic, buddy. Turn your mic on.
Let's see if this sounds better.
Absolutely no excuses in this league. The league does not care about back-to-backs, injuries, nothing. But that was brutal from the physicality standpoint. They didn't feel us at all. and our guys know that that is totally unacceptable, whether we had whoever is out on the floor, doesn't matter. So, yeah, we didn't reach where we wanted to in threes, spraying the basketball. We didn't reach where we wanted to in assists. And then we just did not have the level of physicality that we want to. So we must be better. 26-6 in fast break points. It's just, it's not us. Take care of the basketball and play smart basketball.
Well, I like those comments because it's exactly what I was just talking about. Too often we hear that from Doug. Too often we hear that from the previous coaches, and it's a problem.
It is. It is. There's a lot that I like about Doug and what he's done. You can't argue with the record. There's just some little things. And to be fair, he didn't choose his assistant coaches. He inherited his assistant coaches. So it's one of those grinded out years, Grant. Do what you can. I still think there's room for improvement with the roster that they have.
You know, when you're down 20 points in the first quarter, you're in trouble. And especially against a defensive team like the Knicks. It's not like being down by 20 against a run and gun team where they'll let you back in. Being down 20 against the Knicks is like game over.
Grant, you hit the nail on the head. The broadcast tonight said the Knicks, if we include tonight's victory, are 65-0 when leading by 15 points or more under Tom Thibodeau.
There you go. Well, that tells you all you need to know.
Yep. Exactly.
You don't come back against the Knicks. They play defense too well. All right, I have to ask you, after watching Karl Anthony Towns in person now a couple of times against the Knicks and watching Minnesota play, how would you gauge that trade right now?
Lopsided.
Yep, I would too. Absolutely. The Timberwolves were in the Western Conference Finals last year. They're not going to be in the Western Conference Finals this year.
No, you know who the wild card is it's DiVincenzo.
Yes.
If DiVincenzo was playing up to par the way he was playing in New York, I think you have a completely different trade.
Yep.
Ball movement. That's what's missing in Minnesota.
Well, it's not a good night for the Kings, and I'm sure that tomorrow they'll be given a day off. There will be no practice tomorrow. There will be treatment, maybe film session, but that's it. And then you'll have a practice on Wednesday and get ready for the game against the Warriors on Thursday, who are hitting on all cylinders right now.
Yep. We got asked this a couple of nights ago. Any change to your thinking there?
No, I don't judge anything on what I saw tonight. I make believe tonight didn't even happen.
Okay.
Just like I told you, I made believe that the win against Charlotte didn't happen. I didn't care about that game. It meant nothing to me. The game against the Jazz meant nothing to me. The game tonight means nothing to me. The game coming up on Thursday, that will mean a lot to me. Tonight, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay. But not tonight excluded. I'm just revisiting the topic. Do you think losing your quote-unquote defensive coordinator in Luke Laux will continue to linger?
I think it certainly does not help the team. I can't quantify how much it hurts the team, but it definitely doesn't help. I mean, that's for darn sure. No question about that, because now the responsibility changes with 2/3 of the season in your rearview mirror, and that's not good. You know, you have a routine with coaching staffs. You have one coach that handles the scouting report on a rotating basis that gets you ready for the game plan and goes over shoot around. You have one coach that does this. You have another coach that does that. Well, Luke was the defensive coach, right? Well, now that responsibility goes to someone else, and they're not accustomed to doing that. It's a different routine. And that coach who is working on other things now has to do this. So, I mean, it can't help. I don't know how much it hurts, but it certainly is not it's not an advantage. That's for sure.
It's really ironic that Luke's last game in Sacramento was also De'Aaron's first game back.
Yeah. How about that?
Very ironic. Tay has a travel question. Do the Kings fly or drive?
That's the coach's preference. When Rick Outerman coached the Kings, he liked to fly, and that's when the Kings were in Oakland, which was the stupidest thing in the world. It was the biggest waste of money that I'd ever seen in professional sports. It actually took longer to fly than it did to bus from the arena. By the time you left the arena, parked, got on the plane, go through your pre-flight check, load the bags, everything else, land, unload, get to it actually would have been quicker to get on the bus and go. It was stupid. It was asinine. As a matter of fact, there were a couple times after a Warriors game, because I had driven down to the Oracle Arena instead of going with the team on the plane because I had to do my radio show. And a lot of times the team flew the day of. So keep that in mind as well, which you want to talk about another waste of money. They would leave in the morning and check into the Oakland Marriott downtown for a couple of hours. I mean, the whole thing was stupid. Anyway, I used to, as soon as I got off TV, go to the car and get in my car. And me being the aviation buff that I am,
yes,
I would look for the landing lights when I was on the Yolo Causeway to see where the plane was, because I would text some people on the plane, like Pete Young, I'm going to go, have you taken off yet? Nope, we're taxiing out right now. Well, okay, in my mind, I would know it's going to be about 20 minutes. I got to downtown Sacramento most of the time before the plane had touched down at the airport. So it was quicker to drive. Stupid. Now, to the best of my knowledge, they bus down to San Francisco the day before the game.
Do you get a police escort if you bus all that way?
No.
Yeah, you're flying.
You don't have a police court. The only time we had police escorts was in on the road in international cities, Mexico City, Mumbai, Shanghai, Beijing, and once we had a police escort in Dallas a couple of years ago for a playoff game, but no.
Funny that you mentioned Pete Youngman. He's back working for the Rip City Remix in the G League,
Good.
Portland's affiliate. I think that was pretty cool.
That's great.
We got this question as well the other night. You said that it was a situation that you don't remember ever happening, correct? Luke Lauk's leaving in the middle of the season?
I don't recall it with the Kings before. If it's happened, I don't remember it. I don't ever remember a Kings coach leaving the team in the middle of the season unless they were fired.
Yeah, it is interesting. I get it because college is, the pros is too. It's different. You got to get on college because of your roster in recruiting. But yeah.
Especially New York, Philly, Washington is bus or Amtrak. It depends what order you're in. If you're going from New York to Philly or Philly to New York, we would do bus. If you went from Philly to Washington, sometimes we would do bus. Sometimes you would fly. A lot depends on the aircraft and whether the aircraft is spending the night in the city that you're going to, or if the aircraft is leaving and then the aircraft, we would just bus. So it just depends. We would never, not once did we ever take Amtrak. I took Amtrak a couple times on my own. Whenever we played in Boston, I don't like being in Boston unless my life is on the line. So I would always stay in Philly or New York or Washington, and I wouldn't get to Boston until I absolutely had to get to Boston. And then if the team was spending the night, I would try to get my ass out of there and get out of that city as quickly as I could to somewhere that was livable. But the team, it just depends. So the coach determines all of this.
Have you seen baseball games at Fenway when the Yankees?
No, I've only been to Fenway once. One of the great stories, you might appreciate this. We went to lunch one day in the middle of winter. And me, whenever I go to Boston, I make sure I have all of my Yankees gear on.
Of course.
Hat, sweatshirt, everything. So we go to lunch and Pete goes, hey, you want to go to Fenway? Now you got to remember, it's like 15 degrees and see, just thinking about Boston gets me sick. It just completely messes my freaking immune system. See what it does to me?
That's terrible.
Bad for my freaking health. So we go to lunch and Pete goes, you want to go to Fenway? He goes, you ever been to Fenway before? I go, no. I got all my Yankee gear on. I go, how are you going to get to Fenway? He goes, they're getting ready to go to spring training. And my buddy is on the staff, and he's at the ballpark. I'm like, yeah, what the hell? Why not? Guy meets us and Pico's, I apologize for my buddy here. And he goes, don't worry about it. So I'm in for the first time ever in Fenway Park, I'm in the Red Sox clubhouse.
Oh, geez.
And I see a guy sitting on a bucket turned upside down. And I go, oh my God, that's Jim Rice. For those of you that aren't, Patrick knows who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I have
Jim
no
Rice
idea.
was one of the great Boston Red Sox to ever play. Left fielder, amazing power, sent the ball in orbit at Fenway Park. Great all-star player, Jim Rice. Great player. Like, great player. I'm like, oh my God, that's freaking Jim. I'm like, and I didn't say anything. And he's looking at me in my Yankee gear.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything. So, like, we get in another area and I go, excuse me, is that Jim Rice? He goes, yeah. And Pete goes, what's he doing here? He goes, he's trying to get invited to be one of the coaches because we're leaving for spring training and he wants to get the hell out of here and go with the team down to Fort Myers. And I'm like, and he goes, he's here every day. And we're like, wow, I couldn't believe it. And then we walked out the tunnel into the dugout, and the field had snow all over it. It was the only time in my life I've been to Fenway. But to walk in all of my Yankee gear and see Jim Rice sitting there upside down on an upside down, the bucket they put the baseballs in?
Absolutely.
It turned it upside down, and he was sitting on it in the Red Sox clubhouse with a Red Sox hat on. I could not freaking believe it. I was like blown away.
It's incredible. Have you gotten to spend much time in a baseball clubhouse? I know you've got your stories about covering the Cardinals.
Many times. I covered the Yankees whenever they were in Cleveland. It was one of my great stories that I ever remember. The first time I ever was covering a major league sporting event was when I was a sophomore at Bowling Green. And I got a press credential to cover the Yankees and the Indians in the fall of 1978. Reggie Jackson, the team that went on and came from 13.5 back to beat the Red Sox and win the World Series. And I was sitting I was so excited. I got to the ballpark before anybody else. I got there before the team, I think. And so I'm sitting in the Yankee dugout, just like going, wow, I can't believe I'm in the Yankee dugout. Like, it was a huge thrill for me. I'm 19 years old. I'm sitting in the freaking Yankees dugout.
Of course.
And all of a sudden, the great late Mel Allen, This Week in Baseball, and the great announcer, his favorite line was, how about that? If you Google This Week in Baseball, Google This Week in Baseball, you'll hear Mel Allen's voice. And one of his signature line was, how about that? Mel Allen, legendary figure, somebody that I watched for years, sits down about, 10 feet from me in the Yankee dugout and says hello to me. We're the only two in the Yankee dugout. I go, hello, how are you? And he said, good. He goes, haven't recalled seeing you before. And I said, well, I'm a sophomore at Bowling Green, and I'm from New York. And I said, Mr. Allen, I'm a huge fan of yours. And he said, oh, that's very nice of you. And he goes, what are you studying? He started asking me all of these questions about what I wanted to do, everything.
Yeah.
And we talked for, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And he had to get up and get ready for work. And he came over and we shook hands, and he said, hey, Grant, I wish you the best of luck. And I'm like, thank you very much. That really means a lot to me. And, good luck the rest of the way. Like things like that. That was also the day that I saw Reggie Jackson do probably the worst thing I've ever seen any athlete do, other than maybe Barry Bonds, in any sport. DeMarcus Cousins would be right up there as well. To a fan, I am standing behind the backstop at Cleveland 2 hours before a weeknight game. The place is empty.
Yeah.
There's probably only 3 or 4 players on the entire field. Reggie is at one end of the backstop, not doing anything at all. A groundskeeper with his Cleveland Indians jacket comes up with his little boy, who is probably 8 years old, and says, Reggie, would it be all right if my son got an autograph? And Reggie looks at the guy like this. What the F are you doing on the field?
Are you kidding me?
Nope. And berates the guy. Says, I'm part of the Indians ground crew and I'm sorry to bother you. And he goes, give me the ball. And he signs the ball, but it could not have been a more embarrassing. I felt so bad for the man and how embarrassed he must have been for his little boy.
Right.
And Reggie wasn't doing anything. All he could have done was, yeah, sure, no problem. Hey, enjoy the game tonight. But he had to be an absolute prick. And I'll never forget it. It was one of the worst things I've ever seen a professional athlete do in my life. You know, again, if he was working, if he was in batting practice, fielding, nothing. He wasn't doing anything. He was just standing there. He wasn't talking to anybody. He wasn't doing anything. And the guy was very nice when he walked up. He didn't but he was very polite. And for Reggie to say that was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Ugh. There's an etiquette. I get that when approaching an athlete, depending on what they're doing. But like to be that dad, bringing your son up, thinking this is like the moment of my kid's lifetime. He's getting to meet this great that he'll tell his kids about someday.
Yep.
And
well, I guarantee you his son, who grew up and probably has his own family and own family now with his own children, probably has never forgotten that moment. I have never forgotten it. And it was in September of 1978.
That's all for now, folks. See you next week on This Week in Baseball.
Mel Allen.
There's Mel Allen for you. I was in
How about that?
I couldn't find the how about that. I only got the outro. I was in the Dallas airport and we were headed to New York for New Year's Eve. And we had a layover. And unbeknownst to us, Owen Wilson was sitting at, the Chili's that's in the Dallas airport.
Yeah, I absolutely do.
The middle of the Dallas airport. Yeah. So if you're going to get connections, whatever. Owen Wilson was sitting right there and we didn't give two craps, right? Or maybe it was Luke Wilson. It's the one whose nose is a little bit crooked. And anyways, he is having a drink with a friend and this dad and this daughter come up to him. The dad had bought a drink, the exact thing. He found out what he was drinking, bought him a drink, had a camera. He's like, and the girl says, Mr. Wilson, can I please have a picture with you? It was like the cutest thing in the world. Nobody else had bothered him. Yep. And he's like, I don't take pictures with fans.
Wow.
To the little girl. And we're like waiting for the punchline because he's in these comedy movies. None whatsoever.
Yeah. You see some things. That moment with Reggie Jackson is one that is ingrained in my mind. And I can picture it as if it happened yesterday. And I will never forget it. On that note, we'll wrap it up. What you going to do a show tomorrow?
Yep. Be here at 2 p.m. Be dissecting this one.
All right. I'll do an evening show tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll do it at 8 o'clock Pacific. Give people a chance to have their dinner, kick back, and join me at 8. That's tomorrow on right here on If You Don't Like That.
Sounds great. Well, not a great night for the Kings, but as always, fun talking with you. And by the way, guys, if you see Grant or Jerry, I can confidently say I don't think you're going to get that response that Reggie got.
Oh, wow.
He'll be a lot nicer.
The only time I was ever rude to a person, and I didn't even have to do it, my wife did. We were celebrating her birthday at High Stakes at Thunder Valley. Yeah. We had just had dinner, and I had arranged for a cake, and we went to the bar area. And they brought the cake out there. This is no exaggeration. And the guy that came up to us, I've known, he was a caller to my show, and he was like, he had no couth at all, no class. The candles are lit on my wife's cake.
Oh.
And he comes up to us and starts talking to me. And my wife can be pretty in your face. And she looks at the guy, she goes, are you effing crazy? Do you see what we're doing here?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, what is your problem, man? It's the only time I remember being rude to somebody in public. And he was very apologetic. I go, well, use your freaking common sense. What are you, an idiot? And my
Tunnel
wife's
vision.
like, yeah, you know, it's unbelievable. But
Tunnel vision, man.
incredible.
Last quick thing. One of my college roommates, he works for WWE.
Yep.
And so he does a lot of traveling, and they'll be in the airports, and people will be waiting in the airports with stacks, not one thing to sign, stacks of stuff for guys to sign, and they'll get a reaction, obviously, because you're trying to sell stuff. It's a lot different than going up with your kid and somebody else, but
Much
your
different.
wife's birthday, come on.
Yeah, I know. It was unbelievable.
Stop.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Ryno's got the Kings Court, and then I'll see you at 8. Thanks for joining us. Not a good night. Let's hope better nights are ahead. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Appreciate your support. Bye-bye now.